Hello, this is Violette Haldane of the West Indian Foundation, and this is another in our series of the Community Coalition meetings. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today, and just a few housekeeping notes. Please mute your phones and your line when speaking, and please place questions in the chat, and then maybe later on we'll open up all of the lines for further discussion. I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and just to give you a little bit of background, the Community Coalition is made up of about 13 organizations that got together in response to COVID to talk about the economic impacts that was happening to many of the social and cultural organizations in the community. That started several months ago, and since then we have just continued to meet and hold various discussions based on topics that the community or other organizations have requested. So again, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to start by asking, by having everyone introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their meetings. And I am going to start with Mr. Anthony Smith, since you're to my right on the screen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Smith. I'm a financial advisor with Certified Financial Services out of Farmington. And you said you want me to tell you a little bit about how I'm conducting meetings nowadays?
Well, a little bit about your business. I just wanted a little introduction.
Oh, okay.
Your business.
Well, financial advisor, using different insurance and investment solutions to help people reach their financial goals, whether that be short, medium, or long-term goals. I like to say getting people from living by default to live by design.
Okay, thank you. Michael Pollack, attorney Michael Pollack, could you tell us a little bit about your law practice?
Hi, sure, yes. So my name's Michael Pollack. The name of my law practice is the Law Office of Michael Pollack. I own a law firm in Hartford. I've been practicing law for 27 years. I started in 1993. And the nature of my practice is that I represent people, individuals who got hurt. I'm a personal injury and workers' compensation lawyer. That's what I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Sharon Dixon Pay from Dixon and Company Affiliates.
Yes, Sharon Dixon Pay, as you said, and we're Dixon and Company. We're a small accounting and bookkeeping firm in Windsor, Connecticut since 1997. We provide everything from service to startups to service to existing businesses, everything including bookkeeping and accounting work, cash flow projections, and a number of services with regard to employees, including payroll. And we are very much involved in tax preparation and tax resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Erwin Hurst, CEO of KeiterBennett Publishers.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erwin T. Hurst Sr. I am an entrepreneur. I own 3 businesses. KeiterBennett Publishers is one of them. It's an adult trade publishing company where we publish adult books, mysteries, thriller novels. I also own a children's publisher with my children, which is called Hurst. And I own a management company called Hurst Companies, where we help entrepreneurs as they navigate the path of being entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Tanya Dorman.
Thank you. My name is Tanya Dorman. I'm the president of the Dorman Law Firm, LLC.
Can you speak up a little bit?
All right, you're gonna make me scream. Okay. My name is Tanya Dorman. I'm the president of the Dorman Law Firm, LLC, which is in Hartford on Main Street. Our office has been in business since 2007. We're a general practice litigation law firm. We do family, criminal, immigration, and real estate transactions. Also, we do some international adoptions generally when they're related to immigration proceedings. Pretty much that's it. I'm also a member of the West Indian Social Club. I previously served at the West Indian Foundation, and I've previously, I think I just ended my second term as the president of the Greater Hartford West Indian Lions Club.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Trevon Cheatham on the line? I guess he did not join us.
No, he did not join yet.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time, one of the things we wanted to talk about today was the impact of COVID on your business, how you are navigating, what things you had to do to pivot. And I'm going to again start with you, Mr. Smith. How did COVID impact your business? What things did you have to do to pivot? And what's working well for you?
Well, to start out 2020, I had everything mapped out perfectly, right? I just knew everything that was going to happen. And ending the first quarter, things were, right in alignment. But, there started to be some things on the news. Places started to close down. And with me being in the business of financial services, pre-COVID, everything was about in-person rapport building, right? Building that initial trust. So the biggest thing I had to do is one of the things that we're doing here now, getting acclimated with Zoom meeting. That was a big part. I would not consider myself to be a technology expert in any regard, but I did have to learn how to bring people through the process of, building a relationship on Zoom. And that was one of the biggest things I had to transfer and figure out how to take an in-person experience and learn how to do it, through a computer now. So that was one of the big things. Now I do have some technological tools in my practice that I use through the computer, which helped me out. But I would say probably the biggest thing is just accept the circumstances as they were and learn how to be, a Zoom master, for lack of a better word. So that's one of the big things that helped me, is just really understanding the position that we're in, which was not ideal for anybody, but making sure that I built my skill set on conducting online meetings so I could be as effective and make it as comfortable as possible for my potential clients and current clients.
Thank you. Mr. Erwin, would you like to answer that?
Yes. So one of the biggest things that I learned was I learned how to pivot, but I also learned how to really stop putting things off. We had just released our latest children's book in December, and then we were gearing up to do our in-school tour when schools were closed down because of the pandemic. And so we had to learn real quick about putting all our eggs in one basket, because I did not have a virtual plan. It was because we always did our in-school meet and greets with, the children. And that was how we were building and how we were selling our books directly to the schools, interacting. We do an hour or so presentation. And so once schools were closed down, there was nothing. I didn't have a backup plan. And so I had been putting off other books for older children as well as books for adults, because we were so focused on the market that we were serving. And then when that market was shut down, it really was about, okay, now that it's here, what do we do with it? And once I started really thinking about what the plan was going to be, I started realizing that all the other things that I had been putting off, now was the time to do it. So I started meeting with my brother Anthony Smith, and we started getting our personal financial things in order, as well as our business financial things in order, which then led me to meeting with Sharon, who is now my accountant, because I needed to make sure that the business was where it needed to be, because no one was expecting the pandemic to happen, but didn't happen. So now that got me thinking, okay, well, if this could happen, I need to be in a better position because what if something else comes down the road and happens? And so I wasn't prepared. Like I'm sure many of us weren't, but I know I could have been prepared, but I kept putting things off saying, I don't need to deal with an accountant right now. Or I don't need to, really deal with the Roth IRA right now. I can put it off. And I just kept putting things off until now we're quarantined. We can't go anywhere. And all those things I kept putting off are now sitting right here in my face. So it really made me realize that you have to stop putting things off, and you really do have to assemble the team, because the team will be there to help you really see things that maybe you can't see yourself because you're too close to those things. So I really have learned how to pivot because of the pandemic, and I'm grateful for it.
Thank you. Thanks. Ms. Sharon, going to go to you since you have in common the two young men who spoke previously.
Yes, I'm actually very fortunate for that, because I've been able to work very closely with Anthony and some of his clients, and obviously meeting Erwin has been a big bonanza for us, and we're looking forward to a good future in our relationship. And that leads right into one of the key elements of our business, was working with organizations on strategic decisions, opening, closing, hiring, downsizing, general growth plans, things of that nature. And like Anthony, a lot of that depended upon a personal communication and personal relationship. And that aspect is the aspect that's been impacted most. And we really quickly had to understand that in order to keep up with our current clients and begin to attract future clients, we had to understand how to do a lot of things online, and how to communicate on an ongoing basis, so that there are things that need to be done and things that you're planning on. All of that kind of stays within some sort of schedule. And quite frankly, it caught us off guard a bit. In addition to that, we had some health issues with some of our staff. So we had to figure out how to do remote bookkeeping like we've never done before. So between that and having to look at a smaller revenue base, because many of our clients were either closed or reduced in terms of their ability to generate income, and it flows down to what we had. So basically, we developed our ability to do Zoom, although the lighting I have right now doesn't really talk much about that, but we're getting better. Anthony will tell you there was one time when it was almost dark behind me. So between that and having to contact people and work with people, in fact, for the first time in almost 20 years, I signed a contract electronically online without a handshake. And at first I was thinking, gee, will they work with us? Will they do business with us without necessarily meeting us in person? And I found out, if you present yourself well, if you have your ducks in a row in terms of what you can and cannot do, it does work for people. That's primarily the major thing that has helped us. And quite frankly, in terms of going forward, we're looking for more opportunities to work with people. And we found that if you ask people and tell people that you're looking for new clients, that you'll get referrals, and you'll get people that will come to the door looking for what you have.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Pollack. Unmute, thanks.
So the nature of my practice, when the pandemic news first started to emerge, but before the state shut down, I saw the writing on the wall like lots of people and tried to identify what I could do to be ready for it and implement some strategies. So I don't have all night, I know. So I'll talk about the two key ones that were first and, forefront in my mind at the beginning. One of them was I was worried that how am I going to represent people if I can't get into my office building, or if I can't get access to my files? People have legal cases. It's a major big deal in their lives, and I don't want to sit back. I need to advance their causes. So I wanted to be ready to go and to continue to practice 100% for my clients. So I focused early on technology and adaptability so that I could keep going and comfort with that. And the other big thing that mattered to me early on, this is even before the state shut down, was I predicted that there would be a period of time of no new clients, because if everything gets horrible, which did happen, people were going to be home, not out and about, not getting injured, which means less cases for me. So I put a huge amount of time and energy and effort into marketing, networking, and relationship building, which is extra hard when you can't go out and see people in person, of course. So those were the two areas that I identified. So by focusing early on my technology and ability to function, even if I couldn't be in my office or going into the courthouse, because I already had clients and cases, I was able to maintain my revenues throughout because I had lots of cases that I could continue to work on and achieve results and get paid for both me and my clients. The good news is that, well, the bad news was that during the shutdown and the slowdown, there were no new cases. And that's scary for any business if you don't have customers or clients. And it's severe and horrifying as a business owner. The good news is that it's turned around and I'm busier than ever now with lots of new cases and lots of clients. But that's because I think I put a lot of work early on in new ways to meet people, to network, to build my relationships and get out there. So that's what I've done. So about 2.5 weeks ago, I told somebody this last night. About 2.5 weeks ago, I was meeting with a new prospective client, and it was a nice gentleman who worked hard his whole life. He was in the trades, he made good money, and he worked his rear end off, and he was recently injured at work. He's already had 2 surgeries and is likely going to need a third. And the guy's badly injured and he's in need of help. So here I am talking with him, and I asked him for his contact information like anybody would do with a new customer or a new client. And when I asked him for his email address, he says to me, "I don't have email." And I said, "Come on, I've been doing this 27 years. Everybody's got email. Some people don't use their email, but everybody's got email." And he actually looked me in the eye and he said, "Email and computers, that's just for nerds." That's what he said. And I'm sitting here now and I'm listening to fellow business owners and I'm looking at my own experiences. And I think that in dealing with the pandemic and how it's affected all of our businesses, technology and adaptability are more critical than ever. I don't think that any of us could accomplish what we're doing now if you go back some number of years where we didn't have the technology available to us that we have now. So I think those are really the 2 key things for getting through it, and then being stronger for our businesses on the other side of it: adaptability and technology. That's what I think.
Thank you. Ms. Tanya? Same thing. What have you done? How did COVID impact you? And what did you do to navigate your way through?
Well, for me, because of the way my practice is, lockdown didn't really affect my business too much, other than the fact that I had to shut off the in-person meetings with people. But I was able to continue to get scanned documents, electronic documents from clients. I was able to do telephonic meetings. For my immigration clients, usually for the new ones, we would have like an in-person consultation and initiation of the case. we ended up doing our consultations by phone or by video, by Zoom or FaceTime, whatever people had, because some people can't do Zoom. They're not technologically inclined to get it downloaded, all that stuff. So, you know, we had to come up with different ways to be able to do WhatsApp, you know, video chat or FaceTime if they had the iPhone. We were able to catch up on a lot of applications that we needed to get done. So I ended up hiring people during COVID. In April, I was hiring 2 people just to get some of my backlog for immigration done. And a lot of the divorces that were contested, they ended up becoming uncontested because with the courts being closed and everything, people were forced to kind of deal and work deals out for the greater good of their families or their children or even for themselves if they're doing a divorce. So we ended up spending a lot of time writing divorce agreements and just doing a lot of writing, things like that. Now that things are sort of waking up, so my office has been closed since March. Most of you who know me in the early stages of COVID between February and March, a couple of people in my family that died, you know, suddenly because of COVID. So emotionally, you know, it was kind of hard to go out there and take the risk and, you know, do things. But as time progressed, we didn't lose clients. We're still able to function, do business. The big issue is getting a lot of things finalized because now we have to wait for the government immigration to schedule people for foreign interviews or for local interviews for citizenships or green cards. And we have to work with the judicial branch to have, you know, case dates and status conferences and so on with the judges by Zoom or by WebEx. So you know, it's been a challenge to get everything done and to obviously with the limitation on not doing in person. Yes, there is a reduction in our intake of new clients, but we're still able to chug it along, and we've done some marketing as well to make sure that we stay relevant and be able to service our clients.
Thank you, Tanya, and sorry for your loss. I know, Mr. Smith, that you have to leave shortly. One of the things that came across a couple times was building relationships or building a team, assembling a team, and you know, it's just growing a new network. Could you address how you wound up building relationships to get additional clients? You're on mute. Okay.
Yeah, so when you know, I'm fortunate of being a part of a networking group currently. So that was definitely a huge help. Bradley Connections BNI Group, which has been a great resource for me, weekly networking chapter. And it's also helped my adaptation with technology because we do it via Zoom every week. So that was definitely a huge help. And, you know, really investing in the expertise of the folks that you have around you, you know, finding good relationships and really putting value on these folks that you meet and tapping into their area of expertise. So a lot of the folks on this call are now a part of my network based on some of the relationships we've built. I know I reach out to Michael Pollack for information around law, Erwin around information around writing and publishing, Sharon on accounting practices. So really developing a fascination and, you know, not only looking at folks as a referral source, but as folks that you're able to tap into their knowledge and really help you build a better client experience and relationship for the folks that you have in your network.
So you went about this through a formal network process, I'm going to call it. Okay.
For the most part, but you know, anytime I come across an individual, I always try to make them a part of my network if they provide some type of value or have an expertise that I don't have.
Okay. Does anyone else on the panel want to talk about how they build their network or developed their team in order to grow their business, get new clients?
I'll say it's as I sit here and listen. So I actually met Anthony because we were all a part of just some men who were getting up and running on the weekend. I was invited by one gentleman who invited another gentleman, and it really just started out just us getting up on the weekends, saying when the year started, saying we were going to commit to doing a day. And during that time, we were all at different levels physically, but we all started, you know, one was a little slower than other ones. We would wait so we all could kind of finish together. And during those times, we just started talking. And then we started realizing who was doing what. Oh, you're in the financial industry. Oh, you write. Oh, you own a beauty supply store. And through that, it really made me start looking at, okay, the people that I'm surrounded with, they all have an expertise in something. Now, these aren't people that I had been working with before on a professional level. These are people that I was just saying, hey, this is just my buddy, this is just my friend. We're just getting up, we're running. It forced me to actually have to say, okay, when you come out of this pandemic, what are you going to be a better person? And that's going to have to start with what have you been doing and what haven't you been doing? So that Anthony and I really started having conversations about, okay, well, listen, I don't want to come out of this because now my income has gone down. So I have to start seeing like what we're going to do, how I can change some things so we can try to get some income coming back. And so my wife was still working, but a lot of the money that I was making was now gone. So it was like, okay, so we were really down to just one income. So we had to adjust some things and really start looking at some things. And Anthony was somebody who I had known for a while, but we had never actually had any conversations about what he did and what I did until we had started having those conversations. And once we started having those conversations, he was like, well, you have these businesses, but what you don't have is an accountant. He says, you know, I have somebody that I could talk to. I was like, listen, I need to have an accountant. I need to have an attorney. I need for them to be Black. He said, listen, I have the perfect person for you. And he introduced me to Sharon. And then we just started talking. She told me who she was. We had plenty of conversations. And I said, okay, I think maybe the first time we talked, I told her, I said, you know what, now you're my accountant. No need for me to look anywhere else or talk to no one else, because it had come from Anthony, somebody who was in my network, I was in his network, and we built this personal relationship as well as a professional relationship. And so now I was like, okay, so now he's introducing me to another person, and then he brought me to his professional network, BNI, and I met my realtor, Wayne. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, I really had to say, if I'm going to take things to the next level, let me start with the people who I'm already around and see how we can help each other. And I'm really grateful that I was able to I was kind of forced to have to do that, because it's really helped me turn things around, really pointing me in the right direction of where I need to go. And so now my network is very strong. I have people that I can rely on, that if there are things that I'm struggling with, I can actually call Anthony, I can call Sharon, I can call like my brother Demetrius at his beauty supply store, and we can have conversations. And I know they're going to give me the truth, even if it's the hard truth, but I know because they want to see me succeed. Whereas before, I didn't have that. It might have been people who were just saying what they thought I needed to hear, but these brothers and sisters are actually saying things to me that are to help me because they want to see me succeed. And that's probably been the biggest key to the network I have now than anything I've ever had in my business life.
Thank you. Thank you. So look at the people that you surround yourself with, see what talents they have and who really want you to be successful, and build your network from there. Thanks. Another theme that has come up is technology. Adaptability and technology. I know that Mr. Michael, you said that you had to, when COVID hit, you had to come up with the technology so you could access your files and, function, do your job. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So before the pandemic, it was fairly common for me to do some work remotely a little bit at home or somewhere private or at a Starbucks or just out and about, because I can take a laptop and a file and a phone and get done most of what I need. So what I had to adapt to was the possibility of not even having the file to grab, or the ability to go check my mail or get into my books for bookkeeping or things like that. And I have the ability to run a paperless practice, but I don't, because I'm old fashioned and like to hold paper in my hand sometimes. But what I changed was making sure that I wasn't just scanning and digitizing what was convenient for me to do that, but I started to scan and digitize everything, so that if I could not access a file and I was somewhere else working, I could open up my laptop or even on my phone and look at and access anything. So whether I'm having to do a workers' compensation hearing from my home dining room or sitting in my office during the pandemic over the phone, it wouldn't matter. I could do the same thing. If a client needs information about their case, or I need to refer to their medical records, which is critical for my type of law practice, I can do that now from anywhere. Before the pandemic, I could do a lot of it. Now I can do all of it.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, you said that one of the things you had to learn to do was present yourself online. It's how you present yourself online. So does that also take into account a website, or is it just, like how we're doing via Zoom, via electronic media?
Well, actually, it does include all aspects of that. COVID has forced me to open up my first LinkedIn account for Dixon and Company. We have, just because on a website that we're creating, we really want to have the ability to link people to us through that medium. And we've invested some time in reviewing and updating our websites. In fact, one of the things that has happened for us is that a small nonprofit company that we started called Dixon Development Institute became more and more important as we start thinking about how we work with small business people, with nonprofits, or that individual that wants to start something and has an idea, has done a lot of work with figuring out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, but they just need that extra step to get themselves set up properly, so that in the first critical 5 years, they're not bogged down by their financial records being a mess, or their lack of responding to the state taxes and federal taxes and all of those kinds of things that can crop up and can steer you off of your central task. So that website is being developed now, and our Dixon and Company website is being updated. We've basically found, though, that if we can offer the ability to do as much as possible online, and things like sharing screens or having the technology to be able to walk people through things, has been very, very helpful, and helpful to our clients, because they can sit where they are comfortably with their books or their machines, and they can learn how to pull up things and do the accounting that they need to do. We've been doing a lot of QuickBooks Online, for example, and although it can be a tad frustrating, we've been able to help people get through the basics of it and be a resource for them going forward. So yeah, it's not only Zoom and Meet and basically whatever software you've had to use, WebEx, whatever, we've had to use that as well. But it's also being able to navigate things like these online accounting systems, and to be able to have people upload and download documents. We've been doing it much like Michael was talking about, where you maybe have somebody fax you something, or you maybe have somebody drop off something. Quite a while ago, we connected the fax machine so it goes directly into an email. So we didn't have that extra paper, for example. Actually, we got spooked about technology way back in October of that October storm, and I think it was 2017 or something, when we were all knocked out, and we would have been knocked out for 10 days, except we had a computer system that we basically lifted and had someone drive through the snow and take to us at another office location so we could continue to provide things for clients. So yeah, it's a multifaceted thing, and many times you find out about a new technology, or you find out about something that might be helpful to you just because someone else is using it, or you get asked about it or something.
Thanks. Ms. Tanya, you are in the envious position of you were hiring people during COVID, you said. Is that just because of the nature of your business? And how did you go about finding good candidates to hire, and what was that process like?
So I got lucky because I was basically looking for new employees since last summer. But I've been so busy, I just couldn't keep, on top of all the interviewing and so on and so forth. And once COVID happened and people started, staying home and businesses were closing, I started getting better resumes on Indeed and some of the other venues that I had to look for new employees. And so I did telephone interviews, first and second interviews by phone. And then I had a Zoom meeting for my third interview before I hired people. Now the issue became, how do you get them into work, into the office, meet with the other staff members and things like that. So we had to get the thermometer, we had to do the COVID questionnaire, we had to send people to go get tested, so we can have them come into our office and periodically do COVID testing just to make sure we ourselves are keeping ourselves safe. It was tough. I mean, I hired some people, I had to fire them quickly because they were not a good fit. But right now we have a good team going. I'm probably going to be hiring one more person because I just have a lot of immigration work to do. And immigration is one of those areas where there are just not a lot of people trained and knowledgeable in that field. So you have to either get people with experience or you have to get people you could train. So we've been developing folks to be able to help us to move some of those immigration applications and so on along. That's one area that doesn't really sleep. Even though COVID went down, they were still processing applications because a lot of the immigration applications are usually done electronically anyway. The immigration court developed an electronic system during COVID. So we are now able to do online filings with the immigration court and with the Board of Immigration Appeals. Before we would have to mail in paper applications with exhibits and documents of supporting evidence, but now we could scan everything and email them as a document into a portal. We can also serve notice on the government for immigration documents using their own government portal. So that makes it so much easier for us because now, once we scan everything, it's so much easier to get it over to them. We don't have to go tab every little page and collate and number the pages like that. Just one set and it's easy. So I actually like it. I think that was a big blessing of COVID, of forcing courts to go electronically. But now you have to have the physical bodies to make sure that you could get all those documents prepared to be submitted electronically. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to open the floor for questions, and while people are thinking of a question they may want to ask, one of the things that was said was this kind of forced people to look at their personal and business financials, that they were kind of behind, not really paying a lot of attention to that. So I don't know if Ms. Dixon or Mr. Smith want to talk about what are some things that we should always be on top of if you're a small business owner that will prepare you for whatever may come down the line or make it easier for the end of the year when it's time to start filing taxes or whatever you may need to do.
Is Anthony still here?
I'm here. I'm just driving to pick up my kids from karate. Sorry, I'm listening.
No problem. Okay. Okay. So I guess I'll talk a little bit. Okay. There's nothing like knowing how much money you're making and how much you're spending. And I almost want to reverse that the other way, and so that you really understand how much you're spending and why. And I think one thing that seems to get in the way of people's understanding that there are so many things dependent on doing things on time, like filing all your returns, filing your state tax, filing your sales tax, filing your entity tax. In Connecticut, we have a whole litany of them. And quite frankly, they're not always easy to find in one place on the website, the state website, even though they say that it is. There is a list though, and there are things that you can do to help yourself, like go ahead and sign up for the email notices, and go ahead and recognize that you live in the state of Connecticut, look on the website for the state of Connecticut and get as much information as you can. And if you find yourself having an issue, ask somebody, because believe me, somebody's out there that can help you. Certainly a firm like ours, but many times your colleagues or your fellow people in your industry can direct you to things that you need to do. Operating without licenses, just because you have a great idea, can't do that. Really need to get that stuff straight. And it can be a real obstacle if you're going to find funding and you're asked for your tax returns, or you're asked for a notice of good standing and you can't find it. So these things really are kind of start with understanding your income and expenses and understanding how to make sure that you're set up properly to get information that you need. In terms of your income and expenses, there's nothing like a computerized accounting system. I know we can track it by just kind of doing our expenses or income on a sheet, but there's nothing like having a system where you can put it in once and then create the kinds of reports you need in order to manage your business and also to do some reporting. Many of us are going to go for some kind of funding at some point. And one of the things that we get asked about is a profit and loss. And many times they also ask for a balance sheet. And so these are things that you're not necessarily going to know just because you're a great plumber, or you're a great hairdresser, or you're a wonderful chef, or you have great expertise in just about anything else. As I said, ask someone and get someone working with you to do those things. It can be really a time saver, and it can be really something that helps you avoid a number of distracting things, like having to respond to the state of Connecticut or having to respond to the IRS.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, I don't know if you can answer the question on a personal side. What should a small business owner have at a minimum for financial stability?
I would say at least a business owner or any individual in particular should have an emergency fund. Ideally, I think sometimes it sounds easier in theory than in actual execution, but at least aiming for a few months worth of expenses. And by a few months, I mean, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. But to double down on what Sharon said, you do have to know what your numbers consist of in order to have an accurate assessment there. So that's why Sharon is so integral to my practice, is because oftentimes you run into business owners who have the business and they're making money, but they're not really sure of what's coming in and what's going out. So to make to kind of use the sports analogy, if you're watching a basketball game and, teams are going up and down scoring and there's no scoreboard, nobody knows who's winning the game. So you got to know if you're winning the game or not. And that comes from knowing the different numbers that are associated with your business, and the way that you can be prepared for, to a certain extent, for unforeseen circumstances, is to have an emergency fund, money that's earmarked in the event of a pandemic or things changing direction at the drop of a dime. So knowing your information and having, ideally, if you could get 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, in a liquid fashion, whether that's in the shoebox, whether that's in the savings account, anywhere where you have access to it, to be able to keep your business afloat during hard times.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the floor? No questions? Let me just check the chat. Great. Mr. Stapleton?
Yes, to piggyback on, I guess my question is to piggyback on what Sharon and Anthony just spoke about. But with the pandemic and everything changing, how important is it for you for business to constantly be reevaluating their expenses? Because as you have to, or how often would you say they should do it? Because as the pandemic goes on, you have to review, as you're saying, with your profit and loss. How often would you say should they be re-looking at what things should you be taking out? If you're marketing or advertising somewhere and it's maybe not working, you should take that out. What thing would you say, how would you tell them to look at their expenses, and how often should they look at it?
I have quite a few that used to only look at things quarterly. And if you have a situation where things are not going to change rapidly, quarterly is sufficient to look at a profit and loss and just kind of nail down those numbers. But that's dependent on the fact that you have at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, done a thorough review of everything that you're spending. Now, that's not COVID. COVID, you really are going to have to look at things on a monthly basis at least. And if you have a cash flow issue, you may find yourself needing some sort of a cash flow statement. And it's really a basic thing. This is the money I have. This is the money I make. This is the money I spent. This is what's left over. And carry that to the next month. And you may need to do that or carry that to the next week, according to what kinds of expenses you have. One of the things that's an important analysis of your expenses are those things that are critical to you staying in business, and those things that you can possibly pick up later. So, for example, if you are in the old days, if you were an outside salesperson, trying to get rid of your car did not make sense. You kind of needed to have your car and the insurance and all the other stuff that goes with it. These days, that may be not getting rid of your internet. Now, it might mean getting rid of cable, but you need your internet kind of thing. You know, that kind of triage may have to happen. The other thing is that especially during these COVID times, you have to be on the constant lookout for funding sources. So if you're looking at your income and you're looking at your expenses and you're seeing that there's some gaps coming down the line, some people have told you that they're not going to be able to stay in business, or they're not going to continue to work with you, that sort of thing, then you need to think about how you're going to fill those gaps. And constantly looking for funding sources, constantly looking at how you can save during the good times so that you have something during the lean times. All of those strategies need to be employed.
Thank you. Mr. Pollack, there's a question that came in. How comfortable are customers with online meetings? Do the efficiencies outweigh in-person meeting?
I was trying to unmute myself. Some people say I have a hard time muting myself, but that was a hard time unmuting myself. I've had people across the full spectrum. There are really a lot of people that are just not comfortable with technology, or they struggle with it. Personally, and from a health and safety point of view during the pandemic, you know, I'm not interested in exposing my building, me or my staff or other people needlessly. So I've tried my best to accommodate people that struggle with technology or find solutions with them, whether we involve their friends or family members who are more comfortable with it if we're going to do a video conferencing, or sometimes when papers need to be signed in person for a particular reason. We've done things in the parking lot where they never exit their vehicle and everybody's masked up. And then other people have, I've taught them over the phone how to put the right app on their phone or their iPad or their laptop so that we can video conference. And you know, just like everything else, people have a variety, a large spectrum of comfort with new things. And we're all kind of muddling through it together. So I think that from my end as a business owner, I have to be adaptable and sensitive to needs of the people that I'm dealing with, and me being flexible to work things out for them. And I think we all do. But for the most part, I've encountered people being very interested in figuring out ways to get it done and to use technology for video conferencing when that's been appropriate. So I've had depositions, court mediations, private mediations, lots of meetings and discussions and new client intakes, and all of those things have happened remotely over video conference. Some of them very smoothly and some of them with great difficulty, but again, it's working through challenges. And that goes back to all of us having to work on our own comfort with these things and being adaptable and flexible for our various customer and client bases.
Great, thank you. I'm going to take this last question before we end our meeting. Mr. Errol?
Yeah, thanks. I got a question for the business owner. I know at the beginning of COVID, it was very hard for small businesses, especially minority businesses, to access funding sources. I know there were like programs out there from PPP to EDIL to other various funding sources that businesses could apply for to get some assistance to stay in business. Just trying to find from the business owners how difficult. I mean, number one, did you obtain access to those funding sources to help sustain your business, and also how difficult was it to access those funding sources? I know it's a lot easier for the bigger businesses because the banks work with them. For smaller businesses, it was a lot more difficult. And I want to get an idea with the small businesses that we have on this forum, were they able to take advantage of those funding sources, and how difficult it was in accessing the funds that was out there? And this is to any of the business owners, Mr. Pollack or Mr. Smith or Erwin. Yeah, just see what you
I'll go. So I became familiar with a lot of those things because of the network, which consisted of Sharon, my accountant, who knew a lot of the things that was going on because she's in that world. She has other clients who were going through the same thing. The difficulty with me was there were things that were available, but because based off of the time of where, how my publishing was working, it just didn't make sense for me to take advantage because of the amount that I would have been eligible for. But I was glad that I had someone like Sharon who was familiar, who could point me in different directions. And then as we sat down and we started talking, saying, okay, maybe this won't work for you, this. And then I was able to get, with my role to Wayne and say, okay, well, this is what we're trying to do. He said, okay, well, let's look at these other funding opportunities as long as with Sharon, you know what I'm saying? So it just opened up, it gave me more exposure to other things outside of just what they were offering, because I knew I might not be eligible to get that, but there were other places where I would be eligible to get some things from. And then we walked through, we went to the paperwork, so it wasn't a difficult thing, but I wouldn't know about any of those things if I hadn't had the network, the people who were in my network to tell me those things.
Okay, thank
you. Thank you. I'm going to thank you for that answer. I'm going to start wrapping up. I'm just going to ask our guests if one piece of advice that you would give a small business owner in this time of uncertainty. And I'm going to start at the bottom with Mr. Smith, if you can answer.
I would say that the one piece of advice is remain optimistic. Like what I've found in life is, if you look for a reason why you're going to fail, I'm sure you'll find a reason that you'll fail. But the same goes for looking for a reason to succeed. If you can look and find all of the reasons why you can succeed, it will present itself to you. And it's often not a lack of resources, it's more a lack of resourcefulness. So just remain resourceful at any turn, and that's the way you'll succeed.
Thank you. Attorney Dorman?
Sure, thanks. My one piece of advice would be to try and keep a level head. Don't panic. Think solution. There's always a way. You just have to find it. So just keep calm. A lot of things will be distracting. You'll get anxious, confused at times, sad. But if you offer good service with your business, a lot of people out there who could use your help. And if you're not 100% strong for yourself and for your business, you're never going to be 100% strong for your clients. And if that happens, your business will fail. So keep a level head and think solution at all times.
Thank you. Attorney Pollack?
I think my thoughts are along the same theme that I'm hearing from others. And one of the things that I do on the side is I coach ice hockey. And one of the things that I tell the kids, and this applies to us as adults, as business owners, and in all walks of life, there's two things that you can always control, your attitude and your effort. And I think that sort of jives right in with what's already been said. Sorry, I hear a dog barking in the background. It's maintaining the right attitude and maintaining your effort. And the one thing that I want to add is take advantage of your resources. And I'm hearing that from all of us. We all know so many people who are business owners and experts in different areas with different knowledge bases and different connections. And I think that we all do better in hard times when we can lean on each other, just like this panel discussion tonight, for example. So to get through the pandemic, Take advantage of the people that you know personally and professionally, and use those connections for the areas where you need help. But nothing's going to happen without a good attitude and good effort. And I think it all comes back to that.
Thank you. Ms. Dixon Pay?
I think the only thing that I would add is keep talking about your business. So if you have to send out emails, if you send out cards, I mean, maybe you go back to the old thing of sending out notes, but keep talking about your business, and it helps you stay enthusiastic about it, and it helps you keep you in the right frame of mind, and you just never know who you might meet.
Thank you. And Mr. Erwin?
One piece that I would say is that you do not have to do this alone. I know Attorney Dorman had said some things, and Attorney Pollack, and I realized that as a writer, I also realized that there are maybe a million other writers out there as well who are probably writing as individuals, and that we can lean on
We're kind of,
to walk this path. Just because you might have started this, that's it.
you were kind of garbled.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, you were kind of garbled.
You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to walk the journey alone.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Demetrius, one of our guests said they have some advice they would like to share. So we're going to end the meeting with you, Mr. Demetrius.
Thank you. So I was invited by Anthony Smith and Erwin and Wayne. Thank you guys for the invite, and learned a lot as well. I'm a business owner of Madeline's Beauty Supply here in Hartford. And one of the things I would tell business owners is to go into business knowing what you do different. What is your different niche within the business? Because when we opened up our beauty supply, we knew that the industry was dominated by people who actually don't look like us. So we actually got into an industry where we was that small minority ownership, and we had a unique thing that we could offer our clients. So when the COVID hit, what happened was we had restrictions that all of the stores had to deal with. But since my wife was a licensed cosmetologist and I had a background in finance, it gave us the upper hand. So when we was forced to do curbside visits, now more clientele started to come to us because they said that we knew exactly what they wanted as far as the product. Some of the other store owners, they actually couldn't even speak English or deliberate as far as what they wanted. Another thing too, when it came to finances and accounting, sometimes people can be in the industry for so long, when something like the COVID hits, they're not actually really hungry to find the resources for you. So I was actually had the fortunate to have somebody who was hungry into the accounting, into the CPA industry, where not only were they looking for funds for me, but they were looking for funds for themselves as well. So, and that helped me greatly. I think it was Girl that talked about it. I really had no problems with finding funding because of my network and the network that was hungry. So thank you guys.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank everyone tonight for sharing, imparting your wisdom. I got some gems. We learned about we have to develop relationships. Technology looks like is here to stay. We have to adapt so that we can continue to grow. And I appreciate everyone for being here this evening. This will be posted in about a week or so, and we will let you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good
See you,
night.
Mike and Mike.
Okay, Miss Tanya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Call me, Wayne.